Some people come home to a hot meal and a quiet house. I came home to sirens I did not know had already been called. Welcome to Daddy's Revenge. I'm glad you are here. Make yourself comfortable. Grab whatever you need. These stories are real, they are heavy, and the people inside them had every chance to make better choices. They just did not take it. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. You're going to want to stay. Let me tell you something about being a husband for 21 years. You learn things about a person that no one else on earth knows. You learn the way she hums when she is worried but does not want to say so. You learn the exact sound of her breathing when she is faking sleep. You learn that when the house feels wrong, it is wrong. No second guessing needed. That evening, the house felt so wrong I could feel it in my back teeth. I was not supposed to be home. My business trip to Atlanta had ended 2 days early because the client pulled out of the deal. Just like that. For months of work and one phone call later, I was at the airport with nothing but time and a bad mood. I did not call ahead. I did not text. I thought, maybe I will surprise my wife, Gloria. Maybe we will order from that little Jamaican place she loves and watch something bad on television and just breathe for one night. That was the plan. A very simple plan. The universe had a different one. The first thing I noticed when I turned onto our street was that my son Damien's truck was parked outside. Damien is 24. He has his own place. He has a girlfriend named Rochelle who keeps him very busy and very far from my front porch on weeknights. There was no reason in the world for his truck to be in my driveway at 7:30 in the evening on a Wednesday. I sat in my car for a moment and I said to myself out loud, because sometimes you need to hear it to believe it. I said, Marcus, why is your grown son parked at your house right now? I had no answer, so I got out. The second thing I noticed was the lights. Too many lights on. Every room. Like someone was looking for something. Or like two people were moving through the house, trying to be busy. I pushed to the front door, and there they were. Damien and Rochelle, sitting at my kitchen table. Not eating, not talking, just sitting. Like two people who had rehearsed what to do when the door opened and were waiting for their cue. Damien stood up when he saw me, and here is the part that I want you to sit with. He did not look surprised. Think about that. Your father walks in 2 days early, and you do not even blink. There were no wide eyes. No, Dad, what are you doing here? No scrambling. Just a slow, measured look that I had never seen on my son's face before and hoped to never see again. Rochelle smiled, and that smile had no business being in my kitchen. It was too smooth, too ready. I said, Damien, where's your mother? He cleared his throat. He actually cleared his throat like he was about to give a presentation. He said, Dad, hey, we were going to call you tonight. Mom had a rough day. She is at Northside Medical. He said she is stable, so... And then he kept talking, but I was already gone. I did not remember grabbing my keys. I do not remember the drive. I remember hitting the highway, and I remember my hands being very, very still on the wheel, which is not normal for me. I call my oldest friend, Raymond, on the way. Raymond Osei has known me since we were 12 years old. He watched me fail my driving test twice. He held my hand the night my father died. He is the one person on this earth who will not soften the truth for me because he knows I do not want it soft. He answered on the first ring. I said, Gloria is in the hospital. And then I told him about Damien, about the truck, about the look. There was a long pause, and then Raymond said, Marcus, that boy knew something. Northside Medical was 20 minutes from our house. I was there in 12. I'm not proud of that, but I am not sorry either. A nurse named Dana walked me back to the attending physician, a Dr. Simona Lade, a sharp woman with reading glasses on a chain and the kind of calm that comes from telling hard truth for 20 years. She did not waste my time. She said, Mr. Carter, your wife was brought in this morning presenting with neurological disruption, liver inflammation, and toxicity levels in her blood that do not match any illness we have identified. I stared at her. I said toxicity. She said yes. She said the pattern is not random. She said, it looks like something that has been building for a while. Building. That one word. I put my hand flat on the counter next to her because I needed something solid underneath me. I said, Dr. Alade, are you telling me that someone has been doing this to my wife? She looked at me steadily and said, I'm telling you that the evidence points somewhere that you and I both need to understand better. I want to see Gloria. I have seen my wife in every version of herself. I have seen her laugh until she could not breathe. I have seen her cry at commercials. I've seen her run a half marathon on a sprained ankle just to prove she could. I was not ready for what I walked into that room and saw. She looked like someone had slowly turned down the volume on her. Like everything bright about her had been dimmed over time so gradually that no single day would have shown you the change. The Gloria I knew could argue a case, cook Sunday dinner, and balance the household budget all before noon. The woman in that bed looked like she had been tired for a very long time, and no one had asked her why. I sat down beside her, and I took her hand, and she opened her eyes just a little and said, "Marcus." And the way she said my name told me everything. She knew something had been wrong. She just had not known what. I told her I was there. I told her I was not leaving. I kissed her hand, and I made her a promise in that quiet room, with the monitors beeping and the floor dripping. I said, "I'm going to find out every single thing that happened." I walked back out to the waiting area, and Damien and Rochelle were already there. Of course they were. Damien stepped forward with his hands out like he wanted a hug, or a conversation, or maybe just a chance to explain himself before I got too far down the road. I was already walking. I held up one hand, one flat hand, and something in my face communicated exactly what I needed it to communicate because he stopped walking. I said, "Not yet." And then I walked to the far corner of that waiting room, turned my back to both of them, and picked up my phone. And I started doing something that they did not see coming. I started locking every account they had any access to. Every single one. My business account that Damien had signing power on because I had trusted him with a purchasing role in the company. The joint savings account that Rochelle had the card number to because Gloria had added her once for an emergency errand. The online access to our home insurance portal. The investment account that Damien could view but not touch. Or so I thought. I changed the passwords. All of them. I revoked the digital access. I moved money. I called my bank's fraud line and put flags on everything that had my name on it. And I did all of this quietly, calmly, standing in the corner of a hospital waiting room while my son watched my back and had no idea what was happening. When I turned around, Damien's face had shifted. Not dramatically, just slightly, like someone had changed the lighting. His jaw was a little tighter. Rochelle was looking at her phone like it had stopped working. I noticed it and I filed it away and I said, "Go home. I will call you tomorrow." Damien said, "Dad, we want to stay." I said, "I know. Go home." They left. I sat back down beside Gloria's room and I called Raymond back. I told him everything. The doctor's words, the toxicity, the accounts, the look on Damien's face when he realized something had shifted. Raymond was quiet for a long time, and then he said, "Marcus, you need someone who knows how to find paper trails." I said, "I know someone." Her name was Donna Hewitt. Donna had worked as a forensic financial analyst for 18 years before going private. I had used her once to untangle a business dispute 4 years ago. She was the best I had ever seen, and she answered my message at 10:45 that night with 3 words. "Send me everything." The next morning, I arrived at the hospital at 6. Gloria was slightly more alert. She squeezed my hand. She asked me what had happened. I told her she had gotten very sick and that the doctors were taking good care of her and that I was handling everything. She looked at me for a long moment, and then she said, "It was the tea, Marcus." I said, "What tea?" She said, Rochelle had been bringing her herbal tea every week for about 4 months. She said it was good for her joints. Gloria has had joint pain for years, so she did not question it. She just drank it every week for 4 months. I sat very still when she told me that. The kind of still that happens when your body is processing something that your mind has not fully accepted yet. I said, "Rochelle brought you tea." She said yes. She said Rochelle had been so attentive lately. She said it made her happy that Damien had found someone who cared about family. I excused myself. I went to the hallway. I called Donna. I told her about the tea. She said, "Marcus, that is not a detail. That is a direction. Start pulling everything you can find about Rochelle. Her background, her finances, her history. I need to know who this woman is." Raymond had already started doing his own digging. He called me that afternoon, and I stepped outside the hospital to take it. He said, "Marcus, I need you to sit down." I said I was already sitting on a bench in the parking lot. He said, "Rochelle Sims is not who she told your son she was. Her real last name is Vanderpool. She has a prior conviction in another state for financial exploitation of an elderly person. She served 18 months. She changed her name after she got out. I did not say anything for a while. I just looked at the pigeons fighting over a piece of bread near the curb, and I let that information settle into my bones. A criminal. My son had brought a criminal into my home, into my wife's life, into my kitchen table. And either Damien knew or he did not. And I was not sure which one was worse. I called Donna again. I told her what Raymond had found. She said she had already found it independently and had even more. She said Rochelle's bank records showed 4 transfers in the past 5 months from an account she had just opened. Small amounts, under the radar, but the timing was specific. Each one came within 48 hours of one of Gloria's worst health episodes. I felt sick, not angry yet, just sick. Donna had also found something else. 3 weeks before Gloria's hospitalization, someone had called our estate attorney's office asking about the beneficiary status on a life insurance policy I had taken out years ago. The caller had identified herself as my personal assistant. I do not have a personal assistant. The attorney had not released any information because the caller could not answer the security questions. But the call had been logged and the number was traceable. It was a prepaid phone, purchased in cash, at a store 2 towns over. Donna sent me the store's location and a date. I called Raymond. I said, "Can you check if that store has external cameras?" He called back in an hour. He said the store had cameras. He said he had a contact who could get the footage through proper channels. I said, "Raymond, I need to know if Rochelle bought that phone." He said, "Give me a day." I went back inside to sit with Gloria. She was more awake now. She was asking about coming home. Dr. Alade came in and explained that the toxicity was responding to treatment, but that Gloria would need to stay at least another week, possibly 2. She said the specific compound in Gloria's blood work was one found in certain herbal supplements when taken in concentrated doses over a long period. She said it was not accidental. Dr. Alade said that last part very carefully with her eyes on mine. She had already spoken to a patient advocate. She had already noted her clinical concern in the file. She said, "Mr. Carter, I want you to know that I have flagged this case." I thanked her. I thanked her sincerely because she had caught something that no one else was looking for, and she had not backed away from it just because the answer was uncomfortable. That evening I sat in the hospital cafeteria with a cup of coffee I did not drink, and I thought about my son. I thought about the boy who used to fall asleep on the couch watching basketball with me. I thought about the afternoon he cried when our dog passed. I thought about every moment I had believed in him, and I asked myself the question I had been avoiding. Did Damien know? I did not have an answer yet, but I needed one. The next morning Raymond called me before 7. He said the footage had come through. He said the woman on the tape, purchasing the prepaid phone, was Rochelle. Clear as day, he said. He said she was wearing a cap and glasses, but the coat was distinctive, red with black buttons. He said he had already sent a screenshot to Donna. Donna replied within 10 minutes. She said she had seen the coat in Rochelle's social media posts, dated 4 days after the phone purchase. Same coat, same buttons. The pieces were lining up. I did not feel triumphant. I felt tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. Donna called that afternoon and said she had one more thing. She said she had pulled Damien's personal accounts, which I had given her access to as part of a business review I had been planning. She said 2 months ago, Damien had made a cash withdrawal of $1,500. She said it was the same week Rochelle had purchased the concentrated supplement brand that matched the compound in Gloria's blood work. She found the brand through the pharmacy purchase records that she had. Obtained through the legal process, she was running parallel to everything else. I sat with that for a long time. My son had withdrawn money. The money had moved around the same time the poison had been purchased. That did not prove Damien bought it. It did not prove he knew, but it was no longer possible for me to assume he did not. I called a lawyer that evening, a man named Gerald Fitch, who I had been referred to by our family attorney for exactly this kind of situation. He answered at 8 in the evening without sounding annoyed, which told me immediately that he was the right person. I told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I was done, he said, "Marcus, you've been doing the right things. Now, let me do mine." Gerald said he was going to coordinate with Donna and with Raymond, and he was going to build the formal package that would go to law enforcement. He said, "I want you to stop reaching out to Damien for now." He said, Whatever you say to him before this is complete could be used to give him time to prepare a defense. I said, Gerald, I just want to know if my son is a part of this. He said, I know, and I promise you, you will know. Let me find the truth the right way. I went home that night for the first time since I had come back from Atlanta. The house was quiet in that empty way when someone who lives in it is not there. I sat in the kitchen where Gloria cooked on Sunday mornings, and I put my head down on the table. Not crying. Not yet. Just sitting in the shape of everything that had happened. I had left for a business trip, thinking my biggest problem was a client who was hard to read. I had come home to find my wife being slowly taken from me and my son's fingerprints, possible fingerprints, near the thing doing the taking. I cannot explain what that does to a person. It is not a clean emotion. It is not one thing. It is grief and rage and love, all tangled up together in a knot so tight you cannot find the end of any one thread. I got up. I made a sandwich I did not eat. I went to bed and stared at the ceiling until it was time to go back to the hospital. Day 5. Gloria was sitting up. Her color was better. She was annoyed at the hospital gown. She was asking about her garden. These are all very good signs. Dr. Alade came in with a quieter expression than usual. She said the toxicology report had been completed and submitted to the medical board and to the county health investigator. She said the compound had been identified precisely. She said Gloria's exposure had been consistent, regular, and targeted. She used that word, targeted. Gloria looked at me when she said it. She had heard it. I took her hand and said, I know. I am handling it. She said, Marcus, tell me who. I said, not yet. Let me finish. She did not push. Gloria has always known when I need to be the one to carry something. She let me carry it. Gerald called me from the hospital parking lot. He said Donna had completed the formal report. He said it was thorough enough that law enforcement was prepared to move. He said there was enough physical evidence, documentary evidence, and digital evidence to bring charges. He said they were looking at attempted poisoning, conspiracy, and financial fraud. He said, Marcus, I have to ask you something difficult. He said, Damien's withdrawal and his presence in the house that day and the lack of reaction when you walked in, all of it is in the report. I said, I know. He said, are you prepared for what comes next? I said, Gerald, I have been preparing for this since the night I walked into that hospital. He said, okay. He said the coordination with the detective on the case was complete. He said they would move within 48 hours. I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot, and I called Raymond. I did not say anything for the first few seconds. He said, I know. I said, I think Damien knew, Raymond. Not all of it. Maybe not the worst of it. But something. He said, I think so too. I said, how does a man love his son after that? Raymond said, the same way you always have. Badly and completely and without any ability to stop. That was either the most helpful or the most useless thing anyone has ever said to me. Maybe both. The next morning I got a call from Gerald at 6:47. He said, Marcus, it happened this morning. Rochelle was taken into custody at her apartment. He said Damien was brought in for questioning. He said, at this point Damien is a person of interest, not a charge party. He said, I want you to prepare yourself because when the questioning began, Damien told them everything. Everything he knew, which was more than I had hoped and less than I had feared. Here's what my son told him. Damien said Rochelle had come to him 4 months ago with a story. She told him that Gloria had been treating her badly behind his back. She showed him text messages that Damien later admitted he could not verify. She told him that Gloria did not want her in the family and was trying to quietly push them apart. She told him that she was scared that when the time came, his parents would cut him out of everything because of her. Damien said he believed her. He said he was angry at his mother based on things Rochelle had told him. He said when Rochelle had asked him to help her access certain financial information, he thought she was just protecting herself. He said he did not know about the tea. He said he did not know about the supplements. He said he did not know that Rochelle had a prior conviction or a different last name or a history of doing exactly this to someone else's family. When Gerald told me this, I was standing at the window of Gloria's hospital room looking at her. She was asleep again. The machines beeped. The light was thin and gray outside. I said, Gerald, do you believe him? Gerald said, I believe the investigators believed him enough to separate his situation from hers. He said, Damien is cooperating fully. He said, "The charges filed this morning are against Rochelle." I do not know how to describe what I felt in that moment. It was not relief. Relief is too simple a word. It was more like a door opening in a dark room that you had not been sure had a door. Damien had been fooled, manipulated, turned against his own mother by a woman with a record and a plan and a very patient poison. He was not innocent in the sense that he had done nothing wrong. He had helped her access things he should not have helped her access. He had believed things he should have questioned, but he had not tried to kill his mother. That distinction mattered to me more than I can say. It does not mean we were fine. We were very far from fine, but it meant something. Damien called me that night. I let it ring twice before I answered. He said, "Dad," and then he stopped. I could hear him trying to find words the way a person does when they know the words they have are not enough. I did not make it easier for him. I let the silence sit. Finally, he said, "I am sorry." I said, "I know." He said, "I did not know what she was doing." I said, "I know." He said, "I should have seen it." I said, "Yes, you should have." He said, "Is Mom going to be okay?" I said, "Your mother's going to outlive all of us, Damien. You know that." He made a sound that was halfway between a laugh and something else. I said, "We are going to talk. A lot. It is not going to be comfortable." He said, "I know, Dad." I said, "Good." The charges against Rochelle Vanderpool, who was legally known as Rochelle Sims, were filed the following week. Attempted poisoning, conspiracy to commit fraud, impersonation, and a handful of other things that Gerald said made for a very ugly document. The Attorney General's office took an interest because of her prior conviction. There was no bail hearing that went well for her. She was held. Her attorney tried a number of angles. None of them held. The forensic report from Donna Hewitt was described in court as airtight. The pharmacy records, the bank transfers, the prepaid phone, the coat, the footage, the tea, all of it constructed a picture so clear and so detailed that there was nowhere to stand that was not inside it. The trial lasted 9 days. The jury took 3 hours and 40 minutes. I know the exact time because Raymond was timing it and texted me every 30 minutes like a man who had nothing else to do. When the verdict came back, I was sitting in the courtroom next to Gerald. Gloria was not there. She was still recovering, and we had agreed that she did not need to be. But she had told me what to do when it was over. She had said, "Marcus, when they read that verdict, I want you to smile. Not for her, for us." So I smiled. Not a big one. Not a performance. Just a quiet acknowledgement that what was supposed to happen had happened. Justice is not a feeling. It is not warm. It does not give back what was taken. But it is something. It is the world saying, "This was wrong, and we know it was wrong, and we're going to say so out loud in a room full of people and write it down." Rochelle Vanderpool was sentenced significantly. I will not give you the number, because no number will feel right to you any more than it felt right to me. What I will tell you is that when it was over, the first call I made was to Gloria. She picked up on the first ring. I said, "It is done." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Thank you, Marcus." She was discharged from the hospital 3 weeks after that. I had the house cleaned. I bought new tea because she was going to want tea at some point, and I was not going to let that be something that was ruined for her forever. I got the good kind. The kind from the little shop downtown that she had always said was too expensive. I put in a new mug on the counter, and I waited. She walked through the front door on a Saturday afternoon when the sky was doing that pale winter blue thing, and she stood in the hallway and just looked around. She walked slowly from room to room like she was relearning the shape of the place. And then she came into the kitchen and saw the mug, and she looked at me and said, "Marcus, this is not the right tea." I said, "What do you mean it is absolutely the right tea?" She said, "I wanted the peppermint one. This is chamomile." I said, "Gloria, I drove 20 minutes to get that tea." She said, "You drove 20 minutes in the wrong direction." And then she smiled. And that smile, full and unapologetic and aimed right at me, was the best thing I'd seen in 3 months. I made her the peppermint tea. I stood in my kitchen and made my wife a cup of tea, and it was the most important thing I had done all year. Damien came over that Sunday. It was the first time I'd seen him in person since the hospital. He stood on the porch for a moment before I opened the door. He looked like a man who had spent 3 months understanding something about himself that he did not want to understand, which is exactly what he had been doing. I stepped aside and let him in. Gloria was in the living room. She looked at him when he came in. He looked at her. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Then Gloria said, "Come sit down." Just like that. "Come sit down." As if the last 3 months were a door she had decided to walk through instead of stand in. Damien sat across from her, and he cried. Not dramatically, just steadily, the way a person does when they have been holding something too tight for too long and they finally let it go. Gloria did not comfort him immediately. She let him cry. That was important. The comfort came after. She said, "I am not going to pretend this did not happen." She said, "What she told you about me was not true, and I need you to know that." Damien said he knew. He said he should have asked me. He said he should have come to me directly instead of letting someone else's story become the truth he lived by. Gloria said, "Yes, you should have." She said, "But you are here now, and we're going to figure out what comes next together." I sat across the room, and I watched my wife do what she has always done, which is hold the broken pieces of this family in her hands and refuse to let them stay broken. I thought a lot about what made this possible to survive. Not easy. Possible. Here is what I keep coming back to. I moved fast. The moment I walked through that door and saw my son sitting too still in a room that felt too wrong, something in me decided to act first and process later. I did not confront them loudly. I did not make scenes in the hospital corridor. I went quiet. I went to the people I trusted. I let Donna build the case. I let Gerald shape the legal path. I let Raymond keep me grounded. And I stayed close to Gloria every single day. Because whatever was happening around her, she needed to know that the one thing that was not moving was me. I have also thought about Rochelle, about what she was. Not who she was, because I have no interest in who she is as a person. About what she was. She was a study in patience and calculation. She had done this before. She had a blueprint. She knew how to get close, how to build trust, how to turn a son against a mother slowly enough that no single day would make him question it. She was good at it. That is the honest truth. She was very, very good at it. And the only thing that stopped her was that I came home 2 days early from a trip that ended because a client I never met changed their mind. Think about that level of randomness. One decision I had no part in saved my wife's life. Dr. Alade called to check in 2 months after Gloria came home. She does not do that for most patients. I think Gloria made an impression during her recovery, which surprises absolutely no one who has ever spent more than 10 minutes with Gloria. Dr. Alade asked how she was doing. I said, "She is repainting the back bedroom a color she describes as dusty sage, which looks to me like the inside of an avocado." She laughed. She said, "That sounds like a full recovery to me." She was right. Full recovery does not mean nothing changed. Everything changed. The trust that Rochelle broke between Damien and his parents cannot be rebuilt overnight. We are working on it. Slowly. Carefully. With honesty that is sometimes uncomfortable and necessary, and the only way through. Damien and Gloria have dinner together every other Sunday now. The first few were quiet. The last one, Gloria talked for an hour about a documentary she had watched, and Damien argued with her about every single point, and she loved every second of it. I watched from the other end of the table, and I thought, there it is. There's the shape of what we are supposed to be. Bent, not broken. Raymond came over the week after Gloria got home. He brought food from the Jamaican place that she loves. He sat in our kitchen and ate with us and made Gloria laugh 3 times in 40 minutes. I said at the start of this story that I came home to something I wish had not been waiting for me. I stand by that. I wish none of this had happened. I wish my wife had never been in danger. I wish my son had never been used as a weapon against his own family. I wish Rochelle Vanderpool had been who she said she was, or had simply never come into our lives at all. But I did not get any of those wishes. Why, God was the truth, late and ugly and unavoidable. And when it came, I met it. That is all you can do. You meet it. You do not look away from it. You do not hope it resolves itself while you stand at a distance. You walk into it, and you do the work, and you bring the people you love safely to the other side. I came home early. I turned on every light. I made sure every single person responsible faced what they had done. That is the job. It has always been the job. If this story meant something to you, hit that like button and subscribe to Daddy's Revenge for more real, raw, and honest stories. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Take care of each other out there.